geïnteresseerd, even kijken, dit is wel een portemonnee, dan raak ik niet kwijt.
Hello, comrades. What? Hang on. How do we do it in the communist army? Hello, comrades.
Hello.
Better. Welcome to tonight's briefing. Tonight we will be demonstrating this captured Enigma machine from the German army, fresh from the battlefield. I can't keep this up. I can't do it. Hello. My name's James. Currently, I can't see a thing. Hi. I'm going to assume you're there. Yeah? Can you say hi? Hi. Yeah, right, okay, you are there. Right, let me introduce myself quickly. So my name's James. Let's see if I've got my... Hey! I work at Cambridge University. I'm a mathematician, but don't worry, I'm very nice really. Okay? And I'm here to show you this wonderful Enigma machine. So, like I said, this was used by Nazi Germany in World War II to send their secret coded messages. Now, the machine here that we're going to show off is from World War II. This is the original Enigma machine. It's not a copy, it's not a replica. This is it. It was made in 1936. It is now 75 years old. And, well, that's what we're going to do. Well, I tell you what. Myself, I'm not, unlike many of you, I am not a programmer. I'm not a coder. I am a mathematician. Just to show you what it's like to be a mathematician, let's see if this works. Good. Okay. Just so you know, I don't know if there are any mathematicians in the audience. Take pity on them. You'll recognise them. If there are any mathematicians, this is me working at Cambridge University. This is what I do for a living. This is my job. He says, I hope. That's what I do for a living. That's me hard at work. Right? I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. Right. I'm going to do it now. Thank you. I get paid for this. This is what I do for a living. So, and now, I'll add this as well. I don't always do this, but it's quite exciting. I do work at Cambridge. Probably the world's most famous mathematician is Stephen Hawking. Right? Stephen Hawking actually has the office directly above my office. I know! You're right to go rude, yeah! You'd think they put him on the ground floor, wouldn't you? No, they don't. He's directly above me. Let's see if I can get this to work as well. Coming up, this should be a picture of me and Stephen Hawking at Cambridge. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. Obviously not. That's me in the bust that we have of Stephen Hawking. Oh, no, he does work in the office above me. Here's another picture of me and Stephen Hawking. Bit weird, that one, bit weird. Then I got a bit carried away. He loves it. Look at his little face. He loves it. The point I'm trying to make is I'm going to show you what it's like to do what I do. I'm intending to do this through this history of computing, also a history of code breaking. If it holds more weight, I'm junior, right? I'm no one important. I'm way down here. If it holds more weight coming from Stephen Hawking than it does from me, people think I do sums for a living. People think I just sit there with a calculator all day just doing really big sums. Is that all you do, James? Is that your job? I say, no, Dad. No, that's not my job. So, hopefully, we can see this through this history of code. I'll add this as well. Okay, so this is something I've stolen. This is a bit more recent. This is a modern code then. This is something I've stolen from the BBC recently. Well, I'll put it up. This is about Barack Obama's secret code name. Well, it's not very secret when it's on the BBC. Barack Obama's secret code name, if you can see it, is Renegade. I think when you're president, you get to pick your own cool code name. Confirmed by that, if you read on, it is confirmed. George Bush, his code name was Trailblazer, which I am certain he picked himself. Now, obviously this isn't a secret code when it's on the BBC like this. It does explain. So, these people today, these Secret Service people, they have encrypted radios, they have technology that does the encryption for you. As you probably know, we have things like RSA, PGP, we have all these modern codes, fantastic codes with computers that we can have today. Very interesting article, by the way, if you read on. If you're ever asked to pick a code name, little word of warning. This is from Al Gore. This is Al Gore's daughter. This is Karina Gore. When she was asked to pick a code name, so it has to be short, right? It has to be 2 syllables long, and it has to start with an S. And she's been cringing ever since for being identified as Smurfette. So make sure, right, if you're ever asked, right, start picking one now. Think of a cool code name. So I am going to give you a little history of codes, and I'm building up to this to truly understand how the Enigma works. What I want to do is give you a little history of it. I'm going to build up. This is my punchline. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to go, ooh, woo, hey, Enigma, right? That's how I'll end. So, let's put this up. So we're talking about code, and for anyone who isn't familiar with code, and well, many of you will be, even if you've ever written a secret message as a child, a code is like having a secret box. You put your message into the secret box. You can close the secret box. You can lock the box. And when it's locked, your message is now secret and safe. So you can send your message to your friend, right? If there are any bad guys, spies, enemies out there who wants to steal your secrets, they have to steal the box, but the problem is they can't open it. They don't have the key. And that's the idea. So that's what we're talking about. But, like I say, a little history. So we're going to start 2,000, 3,000 years ago with these guys. People who you may know. The Spartans. So, in case anyone doesn't know who the Spartans are, the Spartans, we're talking ancient Greece, and these people, they were great warriors, they're great military people, which is all very true. They were great fighters. As military people, they have to keep their secrets, so they write in code. Right. I'll tell you my favourite. This is a true story, apparently. What the Spartans used to do is they would take a slave. So imagine a slave. They would shave his head. You shave all the hair off his head. You would then tattoo your message on his head. You then send the slave to your other general, your other person over there. The other general takes the slave, fantastic, shaves his head again, and reads the message underneath. Urgency wasn't such a great concern in those days. You can act, come on, there must be something better, there must be a quicker way to do this. But that's true, that's a true story, that's what they did. So they did have another way. So this one was quicker. Oh, look, it's clearing, I can see, look, hello. Do it now. See, I'm ready. Right. So, we're going to try and do this. We're going to send a message now. We're going to try and do it quicker than it was before. So this time, what they did was they would take a strip of leather. So imagine a long leather strip. And they would wrap this strip around a pole. You've got a pole, you wrap it up with a strip, and then you write your message along the length of the pole. Left to right, you just write your message across the pole. If you're not sure what I mean, let me show you. Oh, by the way, if you want to know where Sparta is, there it is. So you take a pole, you take a strip, you do this. So you wrap it up, you write your message here, send more troops to southern flank, blah, blah, blah. And now you unwrap the strip. Now, as you might be able to imagine, when you unwrap this strip and take it off the pole, this is what you get. So this is your code. All the letters have become jumbled up, and now you have to send it in secret. To send it, you give it to your messenger, and he has to hide it. The messenger would turn it inside out and wear it as a belt, so it disguises the message and keeps his trousers up. So hey, two uses, great. So you send the slave away, so he can travel to the other general. The other general takes the strip, wraps it around another pole so he can read the message again. Of course, he has to get the right size pole. If it's the wrong size, this doesn't work. Let's have a look at this. So, on the left-hand side, it would be correct. You wrapped it up and you would get the correct message. The one on the right-hand side, too thin. That's too thin in that case. You wrap it up, it doesn't work. The spacing is wrong. It doesn't line up. The idea is you have to get the right size pole. That's your key. That's your key to your secret box. If you do get it wrong, you can't read the message. Now, what we've shown here are two types of code. One is steganography. That's when you hide the message, as in hiding your message underneath your slave's hair. And the second type of code we've shown is a transposition cipher. That's when you mix up letters into an anagram. That's what we're going to do. However, that's not what Enigma does. Enigma is another type of code. Enigma is a substitution code. It replaces a letter for a different letter. So that's what we're going to do. Now the guy who first did this, or one of the people who first did this, little history lesson here, one of the people who first did this was Julius Caesar. I'll just put up a picture of Julius Caesar, there he is, just in case you forget. Julius Caesar, leader of Rome, winner of the Mr. Lovely Legs competition, 43 BC. Julius Caesar has to send his secrets in code, and he did. Actually, Julius Caesar used to make up codes himself. Which I love. Julius Caesar was a nerd. I love that. So he used to make up his own code. Now, the one I'm going to show you is a really easy one. It's a children's code. We're going to do it, right? We're going to do it together, right? We're going to break a code or write a code, all right? So, oh, there we go. There's the alphabet. I write out the alphabet underneath it. Very simple, 2 alphabets. But the trick to it is one of those alphabets slides across. So I'm going to slide the red alphabet 3 places left. There you go, so it looks like this, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 with the A, B, C at the end. Okay, right. We're going to try and send a secret message. Where's Julius Caesar? Great. Julius Caesar is sending a message to his best friend, Mark Antony, in code. So it's going to be something like, toga party tonight. Julius Caesar, he's having a party. Brutus is not invited to this party. So he writes it in code. Now, I am going to ask you to do this. There's going to be some audience participation. Are you ready? Right, we're going to do this letter by letter. The first letter is T. So what does T become in this code? Yeah, W, right? O is A. R, and G is A. And so on, right, yes, yeah, right. So we fill this in, right, and this is what you get. And you get nonsense, you get a code. Now, obviously this is not a very hard code to do. When you shift the alphabet, you can shift it 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 or 26. I wouldn't recommend it. If you shift it 26, it's the worst code in the world. If you shift it 26. You end up all the way back to where you started. So for that reason, I'm saying there are 25 codes here, ignoring going all the way round back to itself. So that's not a lot. Now, I did this when I was a kid, and you may have as well. And when I rediscovered this idea more recently, I thought, well, how did this work? How did this even work? How did they not notice? This is too easy. And I think the problem is they didn't realise he was using a code at all. When they had a page of nonsense, what is this page of nonsense? And they threw it away. And I think that's the only reason this worked. So this was too easy. So to make it a bit harder, the next step is to mix it up. So let's do that. So this is now replacing one letter for another. Really easy stuff, but it's a mixed up alphabet this time, so it's a harder type of code. And so there are lots of ways you can do it. And it's more than 25. How much more? Well, that depends. That's how strong your code is. The more ways to do it, the more strong your code is. All we're doing is mixing up 26 things, 26 letters of the alphabet in English anyway. So if we do this, a number of ways to do it all together. If you want to write one of these, it's more than 25, it's 400 million billion. That's a 4 with 26 zeros after it. That's, for anyone who knows these things, 26 factorial. That's a huge number, replacing one letter for another. And I'll show you how big this is. Imagine, if we wanted to break this code, let's say there's about 6.5 billion people in the world. It's going to be 7 billion soon, so we're ignoring the babies. Right? So ignoring the babies, there are 6.5 billion people in the world. There are 31 million seconds in a year. So this is what I'll do. I'm some sort of evil genius, right? I'm going to turn the world into a code-breaking factory. I'm going to ask 6.5 billion people to check one key every second. So the whole world is working for me, trying to break the code. So every key, check a key, check a key, check a key. To check all of them, 400 million billion, it will take the world together almost 2 billion years to check them all. It can't be done. When the code makers had this idea 2,000 years ago, they said, brilliant, this is an unbreakable code. No one can check all those keys. It can't be done. And they used it. So they used this for 1,000 years and there was no problem. Until it was broken. And it was broken in the 9th century. So in the 9th century, a really clever guy broke this code, a man called Al-Kindi. He was a Muslim man, a Muslim scientist from Baghdad. Brilliant man. He should be famous for this, and he's not. I think it's a shame he's not famous for this. He should be. So he was a mathematician, he was a chemist, he was a musician, he was a philosopher, he was an astronomer, he was an astrologer, he was this, he was that, and he had the way to break this code. And the idea is very easy. The idea you probably know. But to demonstrate the idea that Al-Kindi did all those years ago, 1,100 years ago, I'm going to try and steal a volunteer. I'm trying to look into your faces. Hello. Let's see. Can I get a volunteer? Come join me down. I want a volunteer to join me down here at the Berlin Wall, down here at the front. Oh, look at that. Oh dear. Oh, now I'm not so sure. Right, where's Christopher? Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Ah, good man. Can I have a round of applause for my volunteer? Thank you. We'll share this microphone. Right.
Okay, great.
So we're going to demonstrate this idea. It's very easy. We're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah, excellent.
Excellent, great.
How's it going?
In English.
Yep.
Good. Without using the letter E. Okay? Brilliant. Excellent. Oh, bong. Okay, right. It's not started yet. It's not started yet. Now. Hi.
Good day.
Good day to you, sir.
And to you.
What did you do today?
This is difficult since you can't use the imperfect.
Always getting technical. What did you do? Is it difficult?
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. Okay. Try this. Did you wash this morning?
I did.
You did. Good. Yeah. Thought so. I find this difficult. What do you think? It is...
All the words that you don't have the E in it.
What words?
Such as easy, which I can't say.
It is not.
Interesting, which I cannot say. Fascinating.
It is fascinating, Mr. Spock. Spock. I think you win. What do you think?
Brilliant.
Brilliant! Well done. Yes, you win. Thank you. Yes, a round of applause for my friend down there. Sorry, that was cruel. You didn't expect audience participation. And as you might know, so that's a very difficult game to play because in English, E is the most common letter, I am informed. And I'm told, you can tell me if I'm right, that A is the most common letter in Finnish. Does that sound right? Yeah, so this is what Al-Kindi did. I'll try to go back up. So Al-Kindi noticed, he did it in Arabic, but the idea is the same in English or any language. Letters have personalities, they have properties. you can use these properties to break the code. So E is the most common letter in English. In English as well, T is the next most common, A is third, actually, in English, and so on. So you can use that idea to work out which letter is which. You can break the code. Letters turn into symbols, but because E is the most common letter, it's the most common symbol in the code. And you can break the code easily, which is what they did for this person. This is a little story I want to tell from back home for me. This is from England. This is the story of, oh sorry about that, I'll get rid of that. This is the story of Mary, Queen of Scots. Now, it's my favourite story, let me tell this. Okay, so Mary, this is in the 1500s, 1584, say. Mary wanted to be Queen of England. Elizabeth I was already Queen of England at this point, so she wasn't very happy about that. So she locked Mary in prison. So Mary is locked away. While she was locked away, she was still able to write to her supporters in code. This is it. This is one of Mary's letters, written in code. What she would do is she would write these letters, and then she'd wrap them up tightly, and she'd put her letter into the cork of her beer barrel, because they used to drink beer. So she put it in the cork of her beer barrel. When the barrel is empty, it would get taken away, and she had a maid who would then take the cork from the beer barrel, she'd take the letter out of the cork, and she would deliver it. Unfortunately, the maid was a double agent. So, she would deliver these letters, but first, she would give them to Elizabeth I's code breakers. And they would use this trick. E is the most common letter, blah, blah, blah. And they could break this code. They could read all her letters. And when they did, they discovered that Mary and a man called Babington were planning to assassinate Elizabeth I. They're plotting to kill Elizabeth I. So, as you can imagine, Mary, Babington, all the conspirators, everyone was rounded up and they were all executed. It took 3 blows of the axe to cut off Mary's head. It's really gruesome. I think what happened, I think the axe was blunt. So you have to imagine the executioner hacking away at her with a blunt axe, bits of falling off. By the time of the 3rd chop, her head was hanging by a tendon. So it wasn't really a chop, it was more sort of a sawing action. When her head finally comes off, they lift her head up to show to the audience, and her wig fell off. Her head fell on the ground and rolled into the audience. Apparently her lips were still moving for 15 minutes afterwards. I love that story. That's my favourite story. She had a very loyal dog as well. She had a very loyal dog, and it stayed with the body. And it got underneath her skirt and started to wag its tail. They thought the body was moving as well. It was chaos. But I do tell that story for a reason. I do tell that story for a reason. Well, okay, 2 reasons. 1, because it's cool. 2, because it shows how codes change history, which is what I want to talk about in Enigma. It's how codes change history. In the same year that Mary had her head cut off, there was a new code. It was published in the very same year, 1583, I think that's right. And it was invented by a Frenchman, a French diplomat called Blaise de Vigenère. And this is it here. This is how it works. So this is the Vigenère cipher, the Vigenère code. And to work this one, you need a square like this. So we've got A, B, C, D on the top row, and then it's B, C, D, E, and it shifts. C, D, E, F, D, E, F, G. So it shifts one place each time. So you make a square. And you need a secret word, a key word. So for some reason, I'm going to pick the secret word bond. So I've highlighted the rows B-O-N-D for bond. So we're going to send a secret message. Shaken, not stirred. For some reason. I'm going to write the word bond above the secret message, repeatedly. Bond, bond, bond. And now this is how the code works. Okay, to send the first letter, S, for shaken, not stirred. To send the first letter, we're going to go to row B for bond. Row that starts here, B. We're going to go to column S for shaken. And in the middle, you find a letter, the letter T. And that's the first letter of the code. And so you keep going. The next letter, let's see, H. So I go to row O for bond, column H. Where is it? There we go. And in the middle, we find the letter V. So that's the next letter of the code. So this is what you do. You fill it all in, and this is what you get. Now, you may notice there is something about this that is different. Look here, let's see. The two R's in stirred here, the two R's become two different letters, S and F. It doesn't become a double letter, it becomes two different letters. And here, these two N's come from two different letters. This is much better than the code Mary was using. This is called a polyalphabetic cipher. Now, if Mary, and this did come out in the same year that Mary was writing her letters, if she had used this, if she had read this and used this code instead, she may not have had her head cut off. Now, this code can be broken as well. If old-fashioned codes, like Mary Queen of Scots, if those are broken by looking for common letters, this type of code is broken by using common words. In English, common words like the, and, that sort of thing. And you can use that idea to break the code. What happened is, this code wasn't broken until 1850 something. So it was used for 200 years, used for quite a while. And it was broken first by a man called Charles Babbage, who you may know. Charles Babbage, who some may call the grandfather of the computer. English inventor, and even as a boy was interested in codes and ciphers. He used to try and break the other boys' secret messages, and he would get beaten up for this. Now, round about this time, a man published this code saying, hey, look, I've made this really hard code, not realizing that it was 200 years old already. And he said, I challenge anyone to break this code. And Charles Babbage said, well, actually, this is a very old code. You can find it in any standard textbook on the subject. And the man replied, yeah, but can you break it? Completely failing to understand that he didn't invent this code. So, at that time, this code hadn't been broken. So Charles Babbage said, okay, I'm going to try. And he came up with this idea using the most common letter. Yeah, and essentially, the Vigenère code is interwoven Caesar cipher. So there's tricks you can do. He didn't, in the history books, or at least a few years ago, this didn't come out until a few years ago. Charles Babbage did not get the credit for this because he kept it secret. This was at the time of the Crimean War. So it is possible that he kept this discovery secret so that they could use the code or break enemy codes in secret. And it was later broken by someone else. Now, this does bring me on to what I really want to show you. Now we're getting down here. I'm going to show you how the Enigma machine works. Now, like I said, this was made in 1936. The story is, this was found by an American gentleman in a French field after the war. I don't know, I imagine it's sort of half sunk in the mud, I don't know. And he took it home as a souvenir. And then when the gentleman who found it, when he died, and he died about 10 years ago. This machine was sold. And it was sold to a man called Simon Singh. And I don't know if you know Simon. This is Simon. There you go, there's Simon going, oh, that's not a magnifying glass, by the way. He just has one really massive eye. Simon Singh, he's an author of popular science books, and he owns this machine. It's his, it's privately owned, it's his machine. It doesn't belong to a museum, and it doesn't belong to my university. Simon lends it to me. Simon bought it so that he could show it off to people, like I'm doing today, to show it off. When he got bored of doing this, he started to employ someone to do it for him. And I'm the third person to take on this job, which by my reckoning makes me the Tom Baker of Simon Singh's. That's a Doctor Who joke for anyone who doesn't know. That was especially for Jonas. There you go. I was going to have a picture of me dressed up as Tom Baker, but I couldn't do the face, as you can tell. So let's have a look at this machine. That's the story of this machine. So it was used in France. It's an army Enigma machine. Let's try and take a look at it. We've got lights, which is great. And so that we can see it, I'm just going to move it slightly. We'll try that. Yeah, we'll try that. So that everyone can see it, we should be able to do this. Hey. So I can go, woo. Right, so we can all see what's going on. Now, just one word of warning. So I'm going to show you how it works. It is an old machine. It is 75 years old. If it doesn't work, forgive me. It should do, fingers crossed, it should work. But if it doesn't, it is old. We'll try this out, we'll have a look. Okay, so let's open it up. This is inside the machine. Let's try and put this in. Hello. We'll take a look inside. Let's open it up. Click. And there it is. It's a beautiful machine. It's absolutely fantastic. It looks like a typewriter. It's pretty much a typewriter. It's 1940s technology. It's wood, it's steel, it's mechanical. It weighs 13 kilograms, which is the equivalent of 13 1-kilogram weights. You're welcome. Let's take a look. Let's see how it works. Okay. I'm going to send something. I'm going to do a message in code. Okay, so if I say hello, let's see what we got. I'm just going to try and do it from here. Hello is the message. So H. Fantastic. If I press H, can you see the letter V lights up? This is your code. The letters that light up are the code. So let's try this again. Let's do the E for hello. Great, that's the letter S. Let's do the L. That's an R. The second L in hello, we'll do this. That's an A this time. And then we finish it off, we'll do the message, it's hello, so O. There you go, that's the letter E. And that's the code. Now this machine doesn't transmit, and they never did. The machines don't transmit. What you do is you write down the message that lights up, the code that lights up. You write that down on a piece of paper, and you give that to the radio operator. He transmits it by Morse code. That's a separate person. Now, and you may have seen what happened there. You may have noticed the two L's in hello became two different letters. Like the Vigenère cipher, it's a polyalphabetic cipher. It's a constantly changing code. So double letters may not necessarily be double letters. You can't use this trick looking for the most common letters. It doesn't work like that. Let's have a look at what's going on. If I can open it up. Before I do, I'll just unscrew this. Let me show you that again. If I press K, since it's close to me, if I press K, there we go, that's the letter T. Now if I keep pressing this, You see, it keeps changing now, and it's random. At least from the outside, it looks random. It's not truly random. It's a mechanical machine, but at least from the outside, it does look random. You have no idea what's going to come up next. So let's have a look how this works. If I unscrew this, open up the lid. This is inside the machine. I'm just building up the tension. That's all I'm doing. I can tell you, by the way. What's happened? Something's happened behind me. I can tell you. This machine, you do have one. They're very rare. In museums, there's about 20 in museums, which is not a lot worldwide. I know you have one here in Finland, in Riihimäki, and you've got 2 tonight, so that's good. So, let's take a look inside. There we go. And there it is. So, what we've got, let's have a look. Up here, these are just light bulbs. Up here, 1, 2, 3. We have 3 things. These are called rotors. These are the infamous rotors, the famous rotors. And inside the rotors, imagine lots of crisscross wires. They're all mixed up, like spaghetti, all crisscross wires. Let's have a look. If I press a letter, so the rotors turn. They rotate, which is why they're called rotors. So they turn. When this rotor does a full revolution, when it goes all the way, it will kick the middle rotor one place. Now, I don't know when it's going to happen. Click, click, click. When it does a revolution, there. It kicks the middle rotor one place. When the middle rotor does a revolution, it will kick the left-hand rotor one place. So this is the fast rotor, that's the middle rotor, that's the slow-moving rotor. So they move at different speeds, like it's hands on a clock, like it's a minute hand, hour hand, second hand. They move at different speeds. Now, there are 3 rotors in the machine. You actually had a box of 5 to choose from. You would have a box of 5 rotors. You pick 3 from a box of 5, you put them into the machine. Let's see what else can I show you. Down here at the front. Now this is a little difficult. I'm going to try and show you. It's a little difficult to see because it's in black. But if I pull this out, I'll try and do it. There we go. I'll hold it in my hand. What we have here is something called the plug board, the stecker board. And what you have are 10 wires. It's kind of like an old-fashioned telephone switchboard. 10 wires which connects 20 letters together. 20 letters are connected into pairs. You make 10 pairs out of 20 letters. And so 2 letters in a pair swap. So if you connect the letter A with the letter T, A and T swap over. So we swap 20 letters in pairs. It gets scrambled and scrambled and scrambled. And it lights up a bulb. Well, I'll show you what I mean. Over here, I have an Enigma machine simulator. So it works just like my Enigma machine. So if I try this out for you, I'll press a letter. Okay, if I press D, okay, so D becomes R. If I press this button, it will show you the inside of the Enigma machine. And you're going to see all these crisscross wires. Let's take a look. This is inside Enigma. That's what it looks like. And it is, it's full of crisscross wires. And if you can see it, this is what happens. If I pressed D, if you can see the yellow line, follow the path of the yellow line, and it goes through the machine and it gets mixed up. It loops back, it goes through the machine again backwards. Goes through the machine again, and it connects to the letter R, and it lights up. But if I pressed D repeatedly, this is what happens. So the rotors move. So those wires move. So physically those wires move. So if I press D and it becomes H, then it moves and D becomes N, and it moves and D becomes B. And the path of that yellow line, the path of that circuit, physically changes, and that's why a different letter lights up each time. Now, this would be useless if we can't decode this message. So I'm going to do that next. This is good, right? Let's decode the message. So, let's see. We'll try this again, something simple. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to say hi. We'll try hi, and we'll see what we get. So first of all, let's do H. Okay, so H becomes I. Okay, so I. And the letter I for hi is J. So IJ, that's the code. So you transmit the code, and miles away, maybe on a ship, you have your second German officer listening to this frequency, listening to this code. It's IJ, because IJ writes that down. This officer has a second Enigma machine. He has one himself. His machine is exactly the same as that one. Now, there is something I have to do. That moved when I typed in hi 2 places. I'm going to rewind the machine. I'm going to turn it back to where it started. 2 places back. 1, 2. Right, now I've reset. Now I type in the code, IJ. So I do this, I becomes H. And J becomes I. Hi. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's almost like magic. It's absolutely brilliant machine. It's just a very clever piece of engineering. Well, let's have a look. This code, so this is what the Germans were using. If we can break this, we will know secret German plans. That's what we need to do. The first people who did this, I think I've got this next. The first people who did this were the Polish. I got that. Oh no, I should say this first. No, sorry, I should say this. This is your key sheet. So you've got your machine, and you've got the one that sends and the one that decodes, and they have to be set the same. They have to be exactly the same. How did you know how to set your 2 machines the same? It was written down for you on a piece of paper. You need this piece of paper. Without it, you won't know how to set the machine. So, it's a large sheet of paper. For every day of the month, the setting changed. It changed every day. So, let's see, there it is. Let's have a look. On the left-hand side, this is the date. That's just the date. So, let me see, it's the 21st? Second? 22nd, thanks, I've got someone new. Okay, it's the 22nd, right? So let's have a look. If you looked at the 22nd here, this told you how to set the machine. The first column tells you which rotor to use. There were 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, on the 22nd, rotor 1, rotor 5, rotor 2, in that order. So it tells you what to do. This ring stellar is the kickover. There's a little notch you can move. You can change the kick. And this tells you where to put the notch. It tells you where to put the kick. This large column in the middle, the large column, is 20 letters written in 10 pairs. That's the plug board, the stecker board at the front of the machine. 20 letters written in 10 pairs. It tells you how to set the machine. The last column was a check digit. You would pick one of those triplets, just one of those 4 triplets, you had a choice, and you would put it at the beginning of your message to double check that the 2 people were using the same day. That was your check. And that was your daily setting. What isn't on that sheet is the rotor starting positions. Let's have a look at that. The rotor starting positions. So, let's switch back to the camera. If I try and zoom in, I will. I'll try and zoom in. Right. Up here, we have some windows. We have a bad angle there. We can't quite see them. They're in shadow, I'm afraid. Up here are 3 windows. And inside those windows, there are 3 numbers. Those are the rotor starting places. the operator had a free choice to pick his own rotor starting position. He could pick any setting he wanted. Now, what he had to do was pick 3 letters. Those were your starting places, 3 letters, and he would send those positions in plain. At the beginning of the message, he would send that in plain. He would then use the machine itself to send a secret setting. So if he picked ABC, and he set the machine to ABC, he could then pick a secret 3 letters, and he would send it using the Enigma machine itself. So there's a plain 3 letters to make a secret 3 letters, which is then used for the rest of the message. Now, what you should do is pick 6 random letters. People being people would tend to pick 6-letter words. So if you sent in plain BER, you could guess that the next 3 letters in secret were LIN, Berlin. If they sent LON, the next 3 letters would be DON, London. If they sent HIT, you can guess the next 3 letters for you. Yeah, you can guess those for yourself. So, this is what they did. Now, altogether, with the plug board and the rotors and the starting positions and the kickover, altogether, the total number of combinations for the Enigma machine is a number with 23 zeros after it. And it's a huge number, and it was too big to check by hand. You couldn't check all the possibilities. That's a way to do it. That's the brute force, exhaustive check way to do it. But you couldn't do it. It was too many. Too many. You may notice that this number is smaller than the replacing one letter for another. That was 400 million billion billion, which is a larger number. But even though it's a smaller number of combinations to check, this is a harder code because it keeps changing. Every letter keeps changing. That's why it's hard. So, we did have to break this code down. This is what I said earlier. The Polish did this first. And these are the Polish code breakers. Now, I'm going to try and look in. Have we got anyone Polish here? Never mind then. Right, fine. We'll move on. No, the Polish code breakers did it first. Yeah, if I try and pronounce their names, I'll just embarrass myself. If I say it quickly, you might not notice. Wojewski, Zagorski, Wojewski. No. Anyway, so these were the Polish code breakers. They did it first. And they noticed. So I said they had to send a secret 3 letters at the beginning of the message. It was your starting positions. It was your rotor starting place. The Germans would repeat it. They would actually do it twice. 3 letters, and then they would repeat the 3 letters using the Enigma machine. Now, they shouldn't do that. Any repetition is a clue. So what you knew is that if you're sending 3 letters and the same 3 letters again, you know the first letter and the 4th letter is meant to be the same. The 2nd letter and the 5th letter is meant to be the same, and 3rd and 6th. So what they did, the Polish were looking for patterns in this as a clue. What they were looking for were letters that just by chance, just by coincidence, became the same thing. So if the first letter and the 4th letter became the same thing, that only happened in a certain few rare settings, positions. They could use this, they compiled a list of all these things, and they could use this to work out, if they spotted one of these patterns, to work out how the machine was set for that day. That's the general idea, that's what the Polish were doing. And that worked fantastically. Until the Germans stopped doing this repetition, as they should. They stopped repeating those 3 letters. Once they stopped doing that, they were locked out of the code. Now, the Polish had broken this code way before World War II in 1932. They already knew Germany was a threat. They had already started breaking this code. So they were long before the Second World War. 2 weeks before Poland was invaded, they passed on their information to the British. The British then continued the work. The British are then later joined by the Americans here in a place called Bletchley Park, a place that was halfway between Oxford and Cambridge, because that's where they took the code breakers from, Oxford University and Cambridge University. So this was halfway between. Or, code name, Station X. That was what it was called. So this is where they were breaking the code. I'll show you a few of the British code breakers. There were many. In fact, by the end of the war, they had 10,000 people working at Bletchley Park. 10,000. You have to compare this with other countries who were doing the same thing, who would have 6 people doing this. That's the difference. That's the difference. So here are 4, however, code breakers. Very clever people. Hugh Alexander, for example, was a chess champion, very clever man. There are stories of him playing 6 games of chess at once in the recreation room, and probably winning as well. Mavis Beatty here on the right-hand side was 19 years old when she started breaking codes at Bletchley. And she's still alive today. She's 90, but she's still around. And I think it's nice to point out that it wasn't just a man's job, it was men and women. Gordon there in the car was in charge of breaking the Army Enigma code. So that is an Army Enigma machine. Messages sent from this machine would have been broken by Gordon or his team. And then Alan Turing on the left, at the beginning of the war, was in charge of breaking the naval Enigma code. There's Alan Turing. So, and Alan Turing is someone I expect this audience knows. Alan Turing, who may be called the father of the modern computer, and in charge of breaking the Enigma code as well. You may know the tragic story of Alan Turing. Alan Turing was gay at a time when it was illegal to be gay in Britain. And so after the war, when this was discovered, Alan Turing was treated very badly. He lost his job at Manchester University. He was treated as a security risk, and they would watch where he went and who he was associating with. And they put him on hormone treatment to straighten him out, to cure him. So in the end, in '54, Alan Turing committed suicide. He took an apple, he laced it with cyanide, and he took a bite out of it like Snow White and poisoned himself. I'll try this, we'll see. Would you believe me then if I told you that that's where the logo for Apple computers comes from? Yeah, no, it's not true, no, it's not true. No, it's not. You'd be amazed at how many people fall for that. Yeah. If anyone does, that is a myth. So if anyone tells you this in the future, tell them, no, it's not true. If they ask you, how do you know? You tell them, a mathematician told me, right? Okay. Now, they did find another flaw in the machine. So the Polish had an idea, then it didn't work anymore, and then they started to use a different idea. See, the Enigma machine is very good, but, and you may have noticed when I was showing you how it worked, if I kept pressing K, like I was, repeatedly, all the letters light up, eventually, except for one, K itself. A letter would never become itself. And that's actually done on purpose. The machine turns the alphabet, 26 letters of the alphabet, into 13 pairs. And that's how it codes and decodes. When I typed in hi and got IJ, H becomes I becomes H. This is how it codes and decodes, and it's done on purpose to make this a small, compact, portable machine. This is a code and decode machine. Other machines like this at the time were larger, were heavier than this. So it was done on purpose, but it was, for our purposes, a flaw. We could use it as a clue to break the code. You know a letter is not itself. So you take a message, and you try and guess what it says. Every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, the Germans would send a weather report. Now, you know what's going to be in that weather report. It was a standard thing, it was pretty much the same every day. The weather report itself was also written in code. Fortunately, we knew that code, that wasn't a problem. So, it was written in code, but that's okay, then written in code again using the Enigma machine. We know what the weather report says. So let's say we take a word like weather, Wetter in German. So we take a word like weather. And we know a W is not W. E is not E, T is not T. Right, just write it down. Write it on a piece of paper, Wetter. Slide this piece of paper underneath the code, and you're looking for where it fits into the message. Slide it. So you don't have letters matching up. 2 letters are not allowed to match. Slide. And if you can find where the word fits into your message, maybe you're lucky, maybe it's just one place. If you find where it fits, then you can start to work out how that machine was set up for that day. And then Alan built this thing. The bomb with an E. And it's a massive machine. Big, noisy machine. It would rattle around. It made a lot of noise. You can physically see how more difficult it is to break code. That's the machine that makes the code, and that's the machine that breaks the code. You can physically see how hard it is. These machines, they were looking for the plug board. The plug board at the front of the machine. What they would do is they would check the rotor positions, but they were trying to deduce what the plug board setting was. The plug board connects letters in pairs. If the bomb machine found something that wasn't connected in a pair, maybe it was connected in a cycle of 3 letters or 4 letters, if it found anything that wasn't a pair, that was not a correct Enigma setting, and it was rejected. So it would reject the incorrect settings. Now, the first version of the machine would check the possibilities and all the guesses and all the things you had to do. Then Alan Turing realised that if you let the machine run, everything that it discovers, if it finds a mistake, everything it discovers from that point on is fruit of a poison tree. If you find anything else, if you let it run, all those things you discover, those are all incorrect, and you can reject all those things at the same time. That made the bomb machine 26 times faster. On a good day, this could break the code in 15 minutes. So you can get a code in, break it, translate it as you have to do, send it out to, say, the English general. You can do all that faster than the original message was received by the German general. The English general would know what was going on before the German general knew what was going on, which is a slight advantage. It's amazing you can do that. It's amazing you can do that. So, Winston Churchill knew how important it was. The only reason we had 10,000 people working at Bletchley Park is because of the support of Winston Churchill himself. He knew this was important. Other generals, other people at the time were from a different era. They were from the First World War, where you win a war by shooting at each other, and who has the most men at the end wins. They didn't like this sort of secret military intelligence spy code-breaking world. It was a dirty sort of war. Winston Churchill was different. He recognised this was an important thing to do. He was a big fan, big supporter. He used to ask for daily reports, and he called the code breakers the geese that laid the golden eggs. Because what they're doing is so important, but never cackled. They never spoke about this. This is top secret. After the Second World War, they had a big bonfire at Bletchley Park. They burnt all the work. All those machines were destroyed. I think 2 were taken away and hidden. But I think even those were eventually recycled and used for other things. At the time, World War II, we didn't have money to have this lying around. We recycled it. So all those machines were eventually destroyed. But by breaking this code, historians reckon that these guys shortened the war. They shortened the war by 2 years. There's Winston Churchill agreeing with me, okay? 2 years. And in doing so, they saved lives. And they're not soldiers. They're not fighting in France and Japan. It's people like us. It's mathematicians, it's computer scientists, it's engineers. It's using your brains to save people's lives.
What?
It's brains over bullets. I tell you what, in lieu of a better punchline, I'll leave it at that. I tell you what, this is what I think I'll do. I'm gonna a little bit later. Give me 10 minutes. I'm gonna set up over there somewhere. I think I'll get a table. I'll set up. I'll get the Enigma out, and you can come and take photographs and have a look and have a closer look at the machine and ask me questions. And I think that's what we'll do. But I guess for now, thank you very much. That's it, you can go home now.
Hey,
I'll be over there. Give me 10 minutes. I'm going to set up. Come and ask me questions, and we'll talk about details and whatever you want to talk about. Okay, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Bye.